Before we jump into this topic, I want to commend you for being here because this can be a very charged topic for many people. I'm very proud of you. I hope that you're very proud of you because this says a lot about where you're at on your healing journey and you're really ready to release the baggage from the past, heal old wounds in order to attract and create the life and relationships of your dreams. Many of us, if not every single one of us walking this planet, has suffered through some deplorable and heinous situations. We've been on the receiving end of some behaviors that sometimes just left a deep wound. They were inexcusable. They might have even been confusing, where we've just sat there and looked at these people like, how could you? We hear that so much. How could you? And if you've thought that or felt that, then this talk is for you. Because I'm all about forgiveness. Forgiveness is a huge part, a massive part of my healing journey. It's something that I started working on 15, 16 years ago when I vowed to remain single and celibate and to figure out why I kept repeating the same relationship patterns in my life. And I started to research things that came up for me organically. And one of those things was forgiveness. Interestingly enough, I had written a paper on forgiveness in college in my early 20s. I pulled that back out again, too, because there were some things that had happened prior to my early 20s that I was holding on to as well. And so when that class, I think it was interpersonal communications, and we had to choose a topic. She had this whole list of things that we could choose from, and I was putting my finger down the list, and I was like, ooh, forgiveness, because I knew that I was carrying some extra emotional baggage and weight and just so much pain from things that were done to me below my 20s. So when I say that a lot of us have gone through some things in our life that have really left some wounds and scars, this is my point of validation for you, because what we're diving into today is really about forgiveness. It's about the releasing of these wounds. But I want to first start by saying it was real, it was true, it hurt, it sucked, it was absolutely uncool, and in nobody's universe or world would it ever be okay. Just so you know, we're not here to condone. And that's the number one point that we must understand when it comes to forgiving, is that there's no condoning involved here. At no point on this forgiveness journey are we saying, yeah, it's okay that you did that. No, nor does it mean that you want this person back in your life if they are out of your life so far. It could even mean, if they're in your life right now, that you could let them go. There's no line that crosses over ever in the realm, in the energy of forgiveness that says it is okay and I need to have you in my life. So I want you all to start off with that truth first, because many times we get wrapped up in that somehow unconsciously. We think that, we believe that. And so that stops us from the true path of forgiving, because we're like, nope, if that's what it means, then that's a hell no. And I don't blame you, because there are still things in my past, things that my perpetrators is what I call them, have done to me that will never be okay, ever. Some things were forgivable, move on, stay in the relationship. People make mistakes, people are healing and growing type situations. And some things were just hardcore, gavel slamming down, hell knows, one and done. That is not okay. Don't even look in my direction again or breathe the same air as me. And I'm saying this because I want you to know I feel you. I understand this. All of our stories might be different. And I do know that when it comes to forgiveness, that the results are always the same for all of us. And it is one of the most powerful things we can do to reposition ourselves in a place of power, in the driver's seat of our lives, is by cutting those toxic ties of the past. Unforgiveness is a form of emotional attachment to pain. It's like we are staying connected to this thing. So unforgiveness keeps us energetically tied to that person or that moment or that event. I can tell you from my experience, when I learned that truth and I felt the truth and I was like, well, that's true. I get that on a deep, deep level. I didn't want to be attached to this person. I wanted them gone. I wanted them out of my life, out of my energy, out of my feelings, out of my thoughts. I didn't want them taking up any more space in my life than they had already taken from me. It's important to understand that our forgiveness is never about the other person. It's not about letting them off the hook. It's not about making them feel better. None of that matters. And some of the things that people have done to us required some type of judicial punishment where they needed to serve some time or they needed to be convicted or what have you. Again, it doesn't mean we're taking away from the consequences of their behavior. I want you guys to really sit in that. There can be natural consequences to people's behavior and we can still forgive them. Again, it's not about condoning. A quote from my book, From Doormat to Sweet Empowerment, is, "Our lack of forgiveness for another does not impose any punishment on the perpetrator. It only punishes ourself." That's a quote that I wrote in my very first book, From Doormat to Sweet Empowerment. Please know that forgiveness cuts the cord between us and our perpetrator. It cuts the energetic, toxic cord that is holding us to the perpetrator. I don't know about you, but I don't want to stay connected to that person, even energetically, or to the thing that they did. The idea that staying still connected to somebody that could perform such a heinous act or could be completely uncaring or unconsiderate, I didn't want any part of it. Now, as time went on with some of those actions, I started to understand them on a level that I hadn't previously or when they were performed, for lack of a better word. And as time went on, I started to see things a little bit differently. I started to understand the walking wounded. I understood how unconscious we are. I understand how a lot of people were just trying to get their needs met. I understood things on a really, really deep level. And guess what? I still didn't want him back in my life. I still didn't. Even though my forgiveness deepened, my understanding deepened. And that's something that I want to share too, is way back in the day when I was really active on my Facebook business page. I'm really not over there much anymore on social media at all. But when I was really active over there and I was writing about forgiveness, somebody said they replaced the word forgiveness with understanding. And I got that because I started to see things on a different level, a different view, a different perception. And that allowed me to release a lot of it as well. Again, we understand from a spiritual level. We're not understanding from, hey, it's okay that you did that. Oh, I understand why you stole $5,000 from me or did. I don't even want to list things, you guys, because some of the things are so heinous that people did. I don't even want to start listing things and start triggering people. Slept with my boyfriend or whatever people did to us. Okay, even worse, even worse. So forgiveness is not about pretending that this thing didn't hurt or that it didn't suck or that it didn't make you angry or that it didn't change your life. There's no pretending involved in this, but it's about finally coming to the place where you're going to choose peace, where you want better for yourself. It's about saying, I acknowledge what happened, I honor my pain, and I am choosing freedom. I acknowledge what happened, I honor my pain, and I am going to choose emotional freedom. That's personal power. It's like cleaning out poison from a wound so that it can finally close. There's a quote that's attributed to Nelson Mandela, but it's not clear whether he wrote it or not. I still attribute it to him because I imagine that this is an experience that he had and probably something that he did come up with. And this is, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die. Boy, when I read that back in the day, I was like, well, ain't that the truth? We're just holding on to this festering, nasty feelings and anger and all of those things. And when we hold on to those things, our body keeps replaying the injury as if it's still happening. But not only that, it can affect our genetics. Okay, there's something called epigenetics, and the emotions that we carry can upload particular genes and can create dis-ease in the body. So please understand that this is not only on an emotional level, on a mental level, this is on a body and spiritual level. This is freeing yourself on all levels. Because when we stay in that, we're still looping in that. On a biological level, we're still in survival mode. So even if the situation is long over, our system hasn't moved on. Forgiveness is what tells our body that that danger is over, that situation is over. I don't have to carry that anymore. And I can recenter, I can get present, and I can live in the now. And that is why forgiveness feels so light afterwards. I almost titled this Forgiving the Unforgivable, or Forgiving the Inexcusable, because I really want you to know that when something feels truly, truly unforgivable, it's usually because the wound went deeper than the event. It didn't just hurt, but it broke trust and safety or identity or love on some level. So here's one more truth that I want you to sink into before I bring up my first guest. We don't forgive by forcing peace or by condoning. We forgive by processing the pain. Real forgiveness happens in layers, not by leaps. This is about layers. Because there was times when I thought I had forgiven somebody and I'd moved on, and then it comes up again. And I was like, wow, I thought that was gone. No, it wasn't gone. I was just ready for the next level. Remember, when we start to heal, when we start to forgive, we're not just releasing the past. We're not just cutting toxic ties, but we're opening space for joy, clarity, healthy relationships, emotional freedom, all kinds of things. So I'm going to bring up my first two guests, and then we're going to talk about the process of forgiveness and emotional release. So I hope you guys stick around for that. I have a 5-step process for that. Welcome, Karim. Thank you for joining me.
KB, good to talk to you. This is a big one. I've been thinking on my way up to the stage about how I can say this with enough detail so it's not going to be triggering or anything. But let me lay a little bit of groundwork, and this may be warranting for something you and I talk about in another talk later and more in depth.
Okay.
The person that taught me the most about forgiveness was a 17-year-old girl that in my past life I rescued. She was 14 at the time. I was the first one through the door with my crew, and we got her out, and she grew up, and we stayed in touch, and she excelled, and she's healthy and good. I haven't been in touch in a long time, but 3 or 4 years after, we were having a conversation, and I'm seethingly mad still. And I didn't do enough to feel vindicated for her with that individual because he was there. So it's not that I didn't. Yeah. So I'm trying to keep this.
You wanted to kick some booty as I'm reading here, but you couldn't.
I got enough in, but my team pulled me off. And long story short, and I want to keep this within the constraints of the talk. She said something years later that she's like, you have to let that go. She goes, I have, and it hit me like a ton of bricks because and we dug into it more, and it was me. The reason was that I was mad at myself. I didn't get there sooner. I didn't, find it, all these things. The clues were there. I'm like, idiot, how'd you not? And she was the one to say, no, I'm free now. You're not. Like she said these words to me, which were very, very reminiscent of what you're saying. And she's like, yeah, for years I envisioned you finishing him off and all these things because she was there witnessing. It was terrible. It was a terrible situation.
Sure.
It was an unbridled one. Right. It was not good. So yeah, that was a really weird awakening for me because it wasn't a de facto standard thing where it's like, oh, I had someone wrong me per se, and I had to find these ways through it, which I have. Those are stories, certainly, and I think other people that are going to jump on will talk about those things, and they're really important. But this was weird because it was, I haven't yet. I mean, I'm going to be blunt. As much as what she said hit me, like, yeah, she's right. I still have not found a way to do that. I'm still fighting with that. where all these years later, I'm like, I can't pull that feeling off, and it's hard. I mean, and everyone that I ever really talked to about this sort of strangely reinforces that with me, where they're like, yeah, you should have really finished, and it's like, oh, I need the other way around. I'm trying to find, this type of conversation, which is, this has captured me. This, the individual's not feeling any worse the more angry I am about it and the more furious I am. I'm not doing any disservice to that individual. There's no benefit in my toxicity that's stuck in there. As righteous as it might be, which is a really key point here, it's damaging, right? It actually was one of the main moments that kind of pulled me out of that world. I just, like, my team's like, you can't go in now. Next time you go in, we're not gonna be able to pull you off, and it's not gonna be good. While we're all gonna be rooting for you to do that, we all knew that was not the ending, final point in this. And Kristen, we haven't met in person, but I'm 6'1" and I'm a pretty big guy. Like, I mean, it would have been easy for me. And it was just one of those things where, and then she saw that as such a valiant thing at the time. And then she worries. She's like, you're now damaged from it almost more than me, is the word she started to say. Wow. Super interesting stuff. Yeah. So it's for another conversation, but I thought it's usually I have pretty cool solutionary ideas around things. This is one that's really hard. That is a hard one. So, but thanks for bringing this up. It's a really good one.
Yes. Thanks, Karim. Thank you so much for joining me. And go ahead and send me a text about how, a topic that we can expand on this, or how that would look, or what have you. Because Karim and I have like 3 talks in the queue. We do. We keep having these back channel conversations, and we're like, we need to talk about this and talk about that. And then it doesn't come to pass yet. It will. But, just a lot going on in both of our lives, and trying to get on that timeline, it sometimes can be a little challenging. But thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate that share. And that's a prime example, you guys, of forgiveness in process. He knows he needs to let that go, and he knows that this is not doing him any good, but yet it's still there. And interesting how this is another thing, is that how we may hold on to unforgiveness for something done to somebody else. Unforgiveness by proxy. I don't know how to explain that, right? Where we're like, what they did to you. And I've done this because I am a super protector. I'm a super protector. I'm a bully buster. You wouldn't think so. There's a lot of power packed in my little body. We were talking about that among the family the other day. We're talking about bullying and who was bullied when they were younger, and this and that. And my son-in-law asked me if I was bullied, and my kids and me all shook my head no. And he's like, why? I was like, I don't know. I said, I think it had to be raised with brothers. I didn't put up with that stuff back in the day. But at any rate, when injustice happens, all right, it's, oh man. So I can hold on to that as well for somebody else, even if it's not done to me. And that's something that I've had to work on too, because I didn't think that was a thing. I was like, I can be mad at that person. That's not my thing, but it's still something that I was holding on to and was affecting me. Kelly, welcome up. Thank you for joining me. So glad that you're here today.
I was just wondering. Sorry about the dog. I was
It's
just
okay.
wondering, what was that quote that you said may have possibly been from Nelson Mandela?
Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person will die.
Okay, yeah, I can relate to that. Been like past 6 months or so. I've been trying, but it's not it's not getting anywhere. I've almost given up on the person.
On forgiving them, or what?
Yes.
What do you? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't give up, Kelly.
It's like I don't know if I want to still be in the situation that I'm in anymore, because I don't know if I can get past it.
Oh, okay. Well, so you're still in a current relationship with this
Yes.
person. Okay. I thought you were giving
Yes.
up on forgiveness. So
No.
here's the thing. We're talking about 2 different camps here. Forgiveness
Okay.
is
All
one
right.
camp.
I came in in the like ending of your talk.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Definitely go back and listen to this from the beginning because it's going to make things very, very clear for you. But there's two different camps. Okay, it's like salt and pepper. Forgiveness is one thing, and the other thing is, do I want to stay in relationship with this person? Okay, because
Right.
they
Okay.
don't have to overlap. I mentioned this earlier. There's people that I have forgiven and I stayed in relationship with because whatever the wrongdoing was to me was digestible. It was understandable. I get it. It was just, them being human or what have you. But then there were things, Kelly, where I was like, no, heck no. Like I can forgive you. I can let this go, let go of the toxic tie, but I don't want to be in your space anymore. Like I'm done with this. This was a line for me. And the only person who knows that space, that line, Kelly, is us. We're the only
Right.
ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Kelly. Truth, welcome up.
Hey, Kristen.
Hey.
As usual, I love your topic. It's a
Thank you.
one that I've been, working on a lot in this past year. And what you said about the layers, I completely agree with and relate to. It's definitely like forgiveness is one of those things where if the experience was very difficult or if it was layered or if it lasted for a long time, then it's kind of like at this point, I just kind of expect for it to come back up and for me to have to work through it again with like the version of me that I'm at now. So I think that was like definitely a very, very like hit close to home point for me. And the other thing, like a place that I really struggled with forgiveness at the beginning, which you've touched on, is I thought that forgiveness also had to include repair. And they're two. And I think that's why it was so hard for me for so long to forgive people, because I thought like, if I forgave them, then that meant I had to be okay with them. That meant that if I'm forgiving them, that we've repaired things, that everything is okay. And that is like so absolutely not true. And I know you've said that, and I just kind of wanted to jump up to reiterate it with my own personal experience, because I heard that, but it's like I had a block and I couldn't really hear it. And I just kept like in my mind, I would hold on to those resentments because these people had hurt me greatly. And it was like my adaptive child trying to protect myself from getting hurt again. So I wouldn't forgive them because I didn't want to put myself in the position to be hurt by them. And it really only has been in these recent years that I've been able to see the separation, that, like you said, I can forgive someone for myself so that it's not eating me up inside, so that it's not my hand on the hot stove hoping the other person gets burned or drinking the poison or whichever situation you want to pick, or picking up the coal and throwing the hot coal at someone, but I'm the only one that gets burned. Yeah. And it was just like, I felt like I had to hold on to those resentments to protect myself, because I'm also the type of person that like, I want to believe what people say. And so because I always believe the best in people, it's like today I have to see people follow through with the action, and the words aren't enough. And so like I'm finding other ways to protect myself that don't include hurting myself more, because that's really what it is. Like when I'm not forgiving somebody, I'm hurting myself. I'm in this like excruciating pain, ruminating over all the things that they've done to me. And I'm holding on to that pain so that I remember not to let them in again and not to let them hurt me again. Well, I can also do that with boundaries. I don't actually have to continue to like hurt myself and like be in all of this pain. Like it is okay for me to forgive someone else. I can't remember exactly what you said, but like my thought of it is compassion. I think understanding, I think, is the word that you used. And yes, it's definitely like it's understanding, it's compassion. It's like when I forgive someone, I'm able to put myself in their situation to try to understand, like, what was that wounded person inside of them? How did that help this action? Like looking at like how it's probably not about me. It's really about their own issues. Trying to remember that like people are always doing their best with where they're at. And yes, that may be somebody's best, but it also doesn't mean that I have to like share space with them because I might not be where they're at. And I think that's one of the most important things for me, or that was kind of the key, is understanding that I can forgive someone and I still do not have to have them in my life. I still do not have to like go back to the old way of being. And it is safe to forgive. And there are other ways that I can take care of myself without resentment.
That's beautiful. Beautifully said. I'm going to circle back to a couple things that you said. Oh, you're timing out. Thank you, Truth. Thank you, Truth. A couple things that came up for me when Truth was talking. And one was that the whole forgiveness piece for the other person, for me, she was talking about how it made her feel like that she needed to make now repair with the person and keep them in her life. For me, this is just me, the way my brain processed, and maybe some of you can relate to this, is it made me feel like I was telling them it was okay. And here's the thing, forgiveness is personal. This is just about us releasing weight, right? Dropping the 1,400 pound bags that we have strapped to us. That's what it's really about. It's cutting those chains with the big bolt cutters, just cutting those chains between you and that person. But I felt like it was me walking up to them saying, it's okay that you did that. And that kept me unconsciously pushing away from forgiveness. It was just an unconscious mechanism that my brain was doing. Then when I realized that I didn't even need to tell the person, this is nothing to do with other people, you guys, nothing. And even if someone has to be in your life for whatever reason, because there's mutual friends or family or things, and you might run across this person at some point, it's going to put forgiveness positions us in a more centered, grounded state when we need to be around them. I'm thinking of a particular person right now that I had to be around only a couple times since the event, let's just call it. Man, I was so powerful. I was such in a place. I get it. I understood. I had the wounding with, where they were at in their life and their thing. Get it. Cut the tie and hail no. And that's something that I had to figure out, grapple with, play with, think about. And it was actually in my research paper in my 20s in that class that I talked to you all about. And this is interesting because you're going to hear different things out there, that anger can still live in the same house as forgiveness. Now, a lot of people think, oh, if you're still angry, then there's a problem. You haven't forgiven yet. Let me unpack. Thank you. Jeanette gets it. If I'm walking around every day angry and it's driven by this behavior, this event, this thing, this perpetration that was done to me, that's not forgiveness. But if I'm walking around light and airy and I've forgiven and I've dropped and I've moved on and I've released, but then I think about that thing again and I start to have some emotions around that thing, that's still forgiveness. Because anytime the brain is going to think about something that is charged in some capacity, we're going to have an emotional reaction to it, just like watching a movie. So I can feel this is one person in my youth, not different than the other one I was talking about, but this one particular person, I feel like I've forgiven them. I have. But when I still think back to it, I'm like, God, it's so sad. It's so sad that they did that. We were such good friends, one of my ride or die type situations, what they call it now. Family, if you will. So it's still kind of a sad thing. But then I move on and I'm fine again. But when I immerse myself in thinking about it, of course, I'm going to have an emotion come up about it because remember, emotions follow thoughts. Does that make sense to everybody? I would love to see a show of emojis. Now, if I'm walking around and I've done this, okay, good. I see that Jeanette and a couple other people are picking up what I'm throwing down. Jeannie does, Teresa does, Robin, Sandy. Okay, great guys. Truth. If I'm walking around, and I did this with another episode with two people who did something yucky. And every time that topic came up, I was mad. I wasn't screaming and yelling at people or acting like that, but it just came up and I was mad. And I was like, ugh. And then I said, wow, it's been 5 years and this is still getting me hot. Still mad about this. The next time I popped myself in the shower, I said, God, source, universe, I'm willing to forgive. Nope, didn't feel it. I wasn't willing to forgive. And I said, okay, I'm willing to be willing. That clicked. I felt it. I am willing to be willing because I know it's hurting me and not them. They don't care. They've moved on with their lives. They're probably not even thinking about this anymore or thinking justified in what they did, right? So I said, willing to be willing. I felt a click. I felt a shift. And like 5 days later, the subject came up again. And when that subject came up, I did not have that dense emotional reaction, that knee-jerk, straight to anger, how dare them situation. It was just a conversation. And I thought, are you kidding me right now? So one of the things that we can do that is so incredibly helpful is to just be willing. To just be willing. And if you're not willing, be willing to be willing. Or be willing to be willing to be willing. When you sit with yourself in your heart in a quiet space, and it's only you communing with Source, just you two, you'll know when that willing clicks. You'll know when it clicks. And that can open doors for you that may have seemed like they were bolted and glued shut and cemented shut and all the other things. All right, we're going to bring up Jennifer, and then I'm going to be going into the process. And I think you guys will like this process because it's not as hairy, scary, or, this can be a really charged conversation for a lot of people. And I want to say, you've all come up and just shared the most beautiful things. And I think for someone who might be struggling is like, you know what? I feel the love in this space and I feel the truth in this space. And so please know that your contributions are helping more than you might know. Hey, Jennifer.
Hello. This is such a funny topic today. Earlier, I was listening to NPR 1A, and it was on how the internet has changed scammers, dating scams. Now we all get the email on the Nigerian prince and we ignore it. Some people are still falling for these dating scams, and the dating scams had turned into internet that's actually related to international money laundering. What came up with me for that was my ex-husband, because when I left him and took Ben, and Ben was little, he decided it was a good idea to make a profile and go online, and he fell in love with someone. And he fell in love with a woman in Nigeria.
No
And
way.
oh yeah. And he ended up, her mother was in the hospital and needed money for bills. And then the hospital wouldn't release the mother until the bills were paid because hospitals keep you hostage. They want to tie up beds like that. Why am I sending money to a man? Oh, it's my uncle. Here we have the men handle that. Why can't I see you today? Oh, the camera, my phone is broken. I need a new phone. Send me money for that. So I was receiving zero child support. All the money was going to Nigeria.
Wow.
The house that we had bought and he was living in went to foreclosure, and he declared bankruptcy. And I, in the process, also discovered that he had co-signed my name fraudulently for a loan on the house we'd owned in Michigan.
Wowza.
Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah. And now, I look at that stuff and I'm like, okay, well, it wasn't about me. It impacted me, but it wasn't about me. However, that is not how I felt at the time, Kristen. I hated that man. I hated that man. Hate. And I was told after a little while by a dear friend that you need to forgive him. Yeah. And she said, you need to pray every day that he receives, whatever it is that he wants in life for a full month. And I was like, I pray he dies. I pray his car goes off a cliff. She's
Who
like,
can
no,
relate?
Jennifer, that's not, you pray that he gets, I'm like, exactly what he deserves. And she said, no, that he gets what he wants out of life. You get what you want and he gets what he wants out of life. I did not, the anger felt self-righteous, and I was angry and deservedly. But the self-righteous part of it is where it went overboard.
Mm-hmm.
I can be angry, but when I become self-righteously angry, that's serving a different purpose within me to elevate me.
Yep.
Um,
Yes.
so anyway, I finally did what she told me to do. And in less than 30, and his nickname was the asshole. In fact, that's all I called him, unless
Mm-hmm.
our son was around, then I would not. And one day, and it was like 23 days into it, she stopped me after a conversation and said, "Do you know that you just called him Chris?" And I went, "Okay, yeah."
Wow.
And she said, "I've never heard you refer to him by his name." And I went, "Huh." And I noticed I felt lighter. And I
Mm-hmm.
kept doing it. And he didn't change, but I did. I changed. And in the Lord's Prayer, and I'm not terribly religious, but forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. That started to mean
Mm-hmm.
something different to me because I have screwed up in life, especially when I was actively drinking, 19 and a half years
Mm-hmm.
sober. However,
Mm-hmm.
I created some turmoil and people
Mm-hmm.
forgave me. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others who trespass against us. So why couldn't I do the
Mm-hmm.
same? And again, I'm not religious. But it goes up and down, and there are days that I still hated him, but there were moments, and I felt better.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's the key. Thank Jennifer, powerful share. Thank you so much for coming up and sharing that today. Absolutely. I felt every moment of that. If you guys did too, I mean, oh my gosh. And how it was, I mean, and I'm sure, she's telling it like a story now, like just this happened, that happened, this happened, this happened. But were you guys like during that story going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what? I mean, it turns into kind of like a list. Yeah, Linda said yes. It just sort of turns into a list. Like, yeah, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. But it's so much bigger than that, isn't it? Especially when it's happening to us, it's so much bigger and it can feel so insurmountable. It can feel like, am I ever going to get through this? Is this ever going to get any better? Like she brought up a massive point. I'm glad that she did, is that it's self-right. Sometimes it feels self-righteous, and it is. You have a right. You absolutely have a right. And that's going to lead us into point one of the process of forgiveness and emotional release is stop trying to forgive. Start by fully validating the hurt. It's very, very important that we validate. The nervous system's not going to release something that feels like it was never acknowledged. It just stays there. So before forgiveness is possible, our body, our mind needs to hear that was real, that mattered, and that hurt. And say it loud and say it plainly, say it clearly. What they did was wrong. It impacted me deeply. I did not deserve it. This is not victim mentality. This is emotional truth. When we try to forgive someone too soon, it could actually trap the trauma in the body. But when we give ourselves validation, we open the door to healing. Super important. We're not trying to do an emotional bypass here. We're not trying to skirt the issue here. It is very important that you honor you. Remember, 5 self-love tenets: respect, protect, validate. All of these have compassion for, grace. All of these things are about you. Give to yourself what you want to give from someone else. A lot of times we want to go outside and get validation for it. But again, like I've said before, anything from the outside world typically doesn't stick and just leaves us wanting more. We become, as quote unquote, kind of addicted to it. Like, now I need more. Now I need more because that didn't stick. That didn't satisfy for very long. Give it to yourself. Step number 1, stop trying to forgive. Start by fully validating the hurt and the pain. Step 2, let yourself feel the anger and the grief. This is essential. Many people want to resist this part because somewhere along the line, they were taught that anger is bad, or that strong emotions are wrong, or that you should be the bigger person, or we pretend it doesn't bother us. But anger is only a signal, a guidepost, a signpost that there was an injustice or that there was a boundary that was crossed. There's a reason why we feel anger. It's important and it's there. Don't push it away. Let it be what it is. You are allowed to be angry. Grief is your system mourning what should have been, what could have been. In that example I was talking about with my friend that was like family, there was a lot of grief wrapped up into that. It was like she died. She was just in my life one day and gone the next. My boyfriend was in my life one day and gone the next. There was grief involved in that. There was betrayal involved in that. It was multi-layered and it was sad. So I allowed myself to be with those emotions. Allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Write it out, journal it out, say it to a friend, go to a rage room. Do whatever you need to do. Get the anger, the emotion, move the energy. Cry, shake, deep breathe, scream, yell, punch a pillow. Whatever you need to do, release, move the energy. What you're doing is you're making space for the forgiveness. Move the energy, make space. The third thing, biggie, and we've talked about this already. Number 3, separate healing from reconciliation. This is crucial. This truth is so important. And again, it might take a couple times for us to really convince ourselves of this because our brain has been convincing us of something else for quite some time. So give yourself that space. This does not mean I have to reconcile. This does not mean I have to make repair. This does not mean I have to be in relationship with them or proximity with this again. Forgiveness doesn't mean we trust again. It doesn't mean we let somebody back in. It doesn't mean we excuse behavior. It does not mean that we minimize the harm that was created. We can forgive and still walk away forever and never see them again, never talk to them again. Forgiveness is about internal freedom. At its core, we're freeing ourselves. Reconciliation is optional. When forgiveness feels unfair, it's often because it is confused with granting access again. These are not the same. I want to be free. I want to be light and free in area. I want to be unencumbered. I've had a lot happen to me, you guys. A lot. A lot of betrayal, a lot of injustice, a lot of what in the earth? How could you? How dare you? And didn't have a lot of people backing me up. Maybe a recognition that it was crappy, and that was kind of it. I was left with all of this. Like, oh yeah, that really sucks, Kristen. Wow. Or, oh, I can't believe someone did that. And off they went. And I'm not saying this in a bad way because it's not their job to carry this, but I would try to talk about this and I wouldn't get a lot, and I didn't have people going to somebody else and saying, hey, this was not okay. I didn't have a lot of protection, but I needed to understand what all of this meant for myself so that I could heal. Number 4, shift from they shouldn't have to it happened. And now I'm choosing my peace. Let's not be in denial about it. Let's not sit in the wishing. Oh, who's been in the wishing? Who's been in the wishing? Where we've just sit there and we'll just wish it wouldn't have happened and wished it would have been better and wish something different, Yeah, normal, human. I'm seeing a lot of emojis coming up for this one. Totally normal. This is the turning point because we're not approving. Linda said yes as well in the back channel. This is not approving what happened. It is not liking it. It is accepting reality. I talk about accepting reality. If we don't face reality, it will control us on some level. And we can't work with what's actually happening in our life because we're not, what's the word I'm looking for? We're not we're not stating it. We're kind of hiding from it. Okay? We're going to stop arguing with the past. We're going to stop saying, I shouldn't have been treated this way. They shouldn't have acted that way. They ruined everything. This wasn't fair. Although all these things can be true, everyone, because they are true. They are true. But the nervous system is still going to hear them as danger. They're still going to hear them as something's unfinished. They're still going to hear them as there's still a threat out there looming. Acceptance is, I hate that that happened. I hate it. Throw cuss words in there if you need to. I always do. That gives it a, that's, for me, cuss words, if I just go, God, I hate that, that does not feel the same to me. I need to add some adjectives on it to make it feel like really embody what I'm feeling. I need to, have that. So that works for me. You do what works for you. Okay. This is saying I am in the awareness and in the clarity and in the truth of what happened. I don't like it, but it happened. And I am now making a conscious choice to release its hold on me. And when we make that conscious choice, you guys, this will accelerate healing. This is where healing starts to move. This is where we get momentum. It's just a choice. And remember, that choice has an energetic frequency attached to it. And what does universe do? It's always matching our energy, always. So when I said that day in the shower, I am willing to be willing, I meant it. I was in alignment with that vibrational frequency and universe matched it. Boom. It was fascinating to me. And the fifth one is forgiveness often begins as, I am willing to let go of this. I am willing. Whether it's someday, if you have to add someday onto it, I'm willing to release this someday. I'm willing to let go of this. I'm willing to move on from this. Whether regardless of not of whether you have, that willingness is enough to begin. Please know. That willingness is enough to begin. You don't have to feel the peace yet. You can still feel the anger. You don't have to fully mean it. Remember, I'm willing to be willing to be willing. All we're looking for is a crack in the door. Forgiveness is strange. There's layers to it. It's different for everybody. Okay? Do not judge yourself wherever you're at on your journey. I don't care if you've carried unforgiveness for 30 years. If that's the way it looked for you, that's the way it looked for you. But maybe this talk right now is kind of just a little tap on the shoulder saying, sister, brother, are you ready yet? Are you ready? 15 years ago when I went through this big forgiveness journey and I forgave everybody and everything and myself and all these things. And then when that thing happened, it was probably 10 years, I don't know how many years after the fact, 10, maybe 5 years after that, this other thing happened. Even though I'd had all this practice forgiving, I held on to that for 5 more years until I realized, like I mentioned earlier, that I had held on to it for 5 more years. And I was like, oh, there's a lot happening in my life. I wasn't really thinking about it. But as soon as I came to my recognition, I was like, yeah. Over time, as the pain moves through our body, as we release, as we form new perceptions, as many of us have come to understand that wounded people wound people, hurt people hurt people. And even though we can consciously wrap our head around it, it doesn't make it okay. And that helps us to deflate the balloon, to deflate the pressure a little bit, to just lower the intensity of the flame a little bit. Allow for process, everyone. Allow for it. Let it be. Let it move. Okay, we're going to have Miss Sandy coming up. Welcome, Sandy. I have 3 of you in the queue, you guys. I have about 5 minutes left on this talk. But what I will do is I will bring all 3 of you up because I'm very curious to see what you have to say. Hey, Sandy, welcome.
Hey, Kristen. So I totally get it. And I'm at the end of that journey with this forgiveness. It's funny because everything today has revolved around this topic just by chance. And I woke up the other morning and I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to carry it anymore. Whether a conversation is had or not, yeah, you have to move forward. And sometimes you just have to have those tough conversations, courageous conversations, and let it be and let it fall where it falls.
Yeah. Are you talking about with the person, with the
Yeah.
perpetrator?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The situation I'll do real quick was basically my sister, who's very secretive in her world, said something about me that what I was going through, and one of her best friends brought it up to me at a group gathering. And I was really profoundly hurt by that. And I knew she talked about other people, but I never knew she talked about me.
Your sister.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I felt betrayed, and it went sideways. And it's been, even though, I see her at family gatherings and things like that, and I'm cordial, we certainly don't have a relationship because of that. Yeah. It wounded me to the core. And I've been in therapy for a year and a half. And finally I woke up and I go, you know what? Be done with this. Yeah.
Wow.
And, and you said wounded people hurt others. And she doesn't have anything to talk about her life because she's so secretive. So she talks about other people. And I felt, what happened to me was pretty horrific. And for her to share that as if it were gossip, I just was really so profoundly hurt. It wasn't funny. And
I don't blame you. She's sharing your story for entertainment purposes or something to that effect.
Yeah. And she said she did it because she felt she needed support. And I go, that's not what support looks like. That's not what support looks like. So I'm dealing with somebody who's very emotionally challenged. It's her thought process isn't going to change. Mine's not going to change. So there's got to be a meeting of the mind, right? When I see her, I'm happy to see her, but it doesn't go beyond that at this point. Yeah. So yeah, it's a whole process. I've gone through the grief of it, the anger of it, all of it. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm older and I don't want to leave this world with that. I just don't. I don't live my life that way, and it doesn't feel good to me, and it's got to be in a better place.
I love that you came to that moment where, and I wonder what led up to it. If you can explain it, where you just were, like you said, you woke up and you were like, yeah, just be done with this. Like, let this go. Do you know what preceded that, or did anything precede that?
You know what? I've been spending a lot of time on myself and a lot of quiet, reflective time. And I think it's just, I want peace within me. And it actually has nothing to do with her. I need to release this for myself. I need to say goodbye to it. And that's, and honestly, my therapist will be like, what are you talking about? She's going to be, her mouth is going to fall open and it's because I'm doing work on my own as well that, I talked to Martin John this morning and we were talking about it, and I don't want to go into another year feeling like this.
I love that.
So I'm going to, my birthday's this weekend, and I'm sure she's going to text me, and her mouth is going to drop when I say, why don't we get together and have a conversation?
Wow, Sandy, what a weight lifted. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you, and happy birthday. I don't know the exact date of your birthday, but happy birthday. What is today? It's Monday. So your birthday's coming up here pretty quickly. That was beautiful. I love everything that Sandy had to say. That was excellent. Okay, we're going to bring up Stephen. Hey there.
Hey. Well, that's just lots of swirling thoughts, because a lot of people have touched on different things that I was going to say. I like the idea of setting the boundary with the people that have wronged you. And I think initially we wander around out here in society and we just assume social media and everything else is telling us, well, you can't forgive them because that means forgetting and all. And then slowly somebody opens the door of, well, there is a different way to look at this. And if you're willing to look at that different way, then you can start to shift. I think for myself, and we all know what the biggest thing I had to forgive for. The question that rattled in my head for a long time was why? Just why? Then the idea of hurting people hurt people. And I'm like, well, really, is this person really hurting that much? And then it was explained to me how anxiety and depression controls the mind, and OCD is a way of coping with it, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you were sharing a house with one very sick puppy that would not admit it.
Yes.
Then slowly, and a lot of this stuff recently, so it kind of ties into the serenity prayer, grant me the serenity, accept things we cannot change. Well, you can't change another person, even though you want to. You want them to take back all the stuff they did or whatever. And I've also found myself asking the question is like, well, that didn't feel too good. And all of a sudden it's like, but was it about you ever?
Right.
Oh, and that's
Yes.
only been within the last couple of months here, especially after a weekend in January there. I'm like, that question keeps coming up in my head. Was this about you? And I'm like, dude, stop it.
That's gold right there. That's gold.
Well, that's my father telling me that.
Yep.
And not my biological father. We'll just leave that. That's
Gaudy.
the point.
That's what my mom used to say, gaudy.
I like the term Abba, which translates to daddy.
That's cute.
Yeah, so I call him Dad, which is what I called my biological father. So, it ties in
How do you
together.
feel now? How do you feel in that department? When you think about things, do you ever have any emotion come up still? Or you still have a little bit of anger? Or, let's touch base with your emotional state with this, just out of curiosity, not about coaching it or judging it, just because we know, the path that you've been down, Stephen, and we know that you've put a lot of work into healing. So I'm just curious where you at.
Yeah, so what you brought up was the when you think of the person, what do you think of? Do you think of anger or do you not? And the idea that if you think of anger, then you haven't forgiven. It's like, and that was presented to me. But really what comes up to me is just sadness. This probably had something to do with one lady I dated back in 23. She says, that's all I feel for you guys is sadness. If you'd have just taken a chance, maybe counseling would have, but both people have to be open to it. I'm like, yeah, and I can't control the other person. So it's just sad that I'm kind of collateral damage.
Yes. And to me, it's sad for them too.
Oh, it is, because she's still wound
sadness for them. Yes.
Yeah, and you can't control any of that stuff. They deserve a better life, but you can't make them get a better life. And some of it, like I said, it was collateral damage. So a buddy of mine who has now passed on, I got so upset one time, and I was like, I'm going to dumb it down. So screw her and the horse she rode in on. And he goes, and the one next to it. And I'm like, what'd the one next to it do? And I'm like, oh, dude, that's collateral damage.
Yeah. Wow, Stephen, that was amazing. Yes. Great job. Thank you for sharing that with me. Something came up for me while Stephen was talking, and that is when he said, he was feeling sadness now. Now, let me back up. He said that I said, what do you feel when you think of the person? I wasn't talking about the person. I was talking about the story. Okay, just so everybody's clear there, I was talking about when you think of the story. When we think of a story, we may still have emotions around it because we still don't like the story. Just like we can watch a movie and watch the same scene 25 times and still cry or still get mad or so whatever. So let me just make that clarity. But when he was saying that he thinks back now and he thinks sad, that's what came up for me. I was thinking that same thing when I was thinking back, I asked Stephen the question, then I was thinking back to how I felt about that particular person. It's just sad to me. And I know now that their life went on and through mutuals, people that we know, telling me stories about where they're at right now. And I was just like, wow, it's sad to me that they they pretty much, whatever was in them to do the thing at the time is still there and has even gone on to create even more problems in other areas in their life. So again, I was just one of the players in their field. I was just one of the people that got hit with the mud. It makes me sad. So I was thinking about that too. Not like sad, I want to cry, but that's the emotion that comes up. Here's the other thing, you guys. When your heart becomes free, let me say that again. When your heart becomes free, when your heart becomes free, you're going to see it very differently. The perception changes. You're going to see it through an entirely different lens. And that's why I feel like that sadness comes up for me when I think of them. I want to tell you guys that this conversation was absolutely off the charts beautiful. The shares today were extraordinary. I want to say that when I wrote my first book, From Doormat to Sweet Empowerment, get this, you guys, I almost purposefully left out the part of forgiveness. Why? Because I was scared. Because when you talk about forgiveness in the world, people get mad at you. I'm not forgiving them. How dare you? Ba, 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 ba. And being that I was new to the speaking arena and the writing books arena and the blogging arena and being out in the world arena like this, I was like, and I remember my brain negotiating this with me. I'm just going to leave that out. But there was a part of me that said, you can't. You got to be courageous enough to talk about forgiveness because this is the way. This is one of the miracle cures. This is one of the ways that we release ourselves and we free ourselves so that we can attract and create the life and relationships of our dreams, so that we can heal. So the lenses change for which we see ourselves and others. Forgiveness is the pathway. Forgiveness of others and forgiveness of yourself, which again is one of the 5 self-love tenets outlined in my book, The Recovering People Pleaser. I am no longer afraid to talk about forgiveness, just so you all know. As you can tell, I will talk about it until those doggone cows come home again. We don't know where they went off to this time, but I will talk about it until they arrive. It's something that I could repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, no matter how much pushback I get from it now. But what I know now is that everybody's on a particular journey, and there's spaces and places and timing and all kinds of things. They're in communion with Source, just like I am. And I can deliver the message. That doesn't mean it's for now. Doesn't mean it's forever. It just means, here you go. Here's some information. Do with it what you will. Decide what you will. No one's going to force you or tell you to do anything. It's your life. You get to choose. For those of you who are new here and haven't yet, I do recommend that you jump over to my link tree by clicking on my profile picture here and clicking where it says my link tree. I have tons of free resources over there. I have guides and workbooks. I have checklists. I have quizzes. I have the links to my other social media accounts, which I'm not on that much, but we can communicate over there. I have my YouTube channels over there with like 600 plus videos by now. This podcast that I record here on Noom Vibe Live, this gets edited and put up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So if you're listening on one of those platforms, I would super appreciate if you're enjoying what you're hearing here, that you would pop over to the App Store and leave a 5-star rating and review. And for those of you here on Noom Vibe, you can do the same, because that helps. That's the only way that podcasts reach bigger numbers of audiences is through the ratings and reviews. There's no algorithms, there's no tags, there's none of all these things. So if you guys are getting some value from these conversations, I would super appreciate if you did that. And until next time, everybody, remember, you matter, your heart matters, your energy matters, your space matters, your mind matters, your experience matters, your pain matters, everything about you matters. You're a brilliant, beautiful, gorgeous, delicious, delectable, unique human being. And you, my beloved, have the power to forgive, so that you can strip off some of that mud and sticks and stones and coating that's all over your beautiful gorgeousness, so that you can rise high and you can begin attracting and creating, if you aren't already in the business of doing so, the life and relationships of your dreams. You can have anything you want. Please remember that. The universe is abundant. Much love, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.